Today, we are diving into a really powerful book, Mastery by Robert Greene. It's all about how some of the greatest people in history got to the absolute top of their fields and, maybe more importantly, how we can actually learn from their journey. So the book kicks off by throwing a big wrench into an idea we've all heard a million times, this whole myth of the lone genius who just gets struck by lightning. But Greene asks this really simple but profound question. What if that's completely backwards? What if genius isn't some genetic lottery for a few lucky people, but something that any one of us can build?
And that really brings us to the first major idea here, pulling back the curtain on this whole myth of genius to see what's really going on.
Okay, so here's the fundamental switch in thinking. The myth says it's all about raw talent. You're either born with it or you're not, end of story. But the reality, the one Greene lays out, is that mastery is a process. It's a long, it's a demanding road, but it's a road that's open to anyone who's actually willing to walk it. You know, just think about the story of Charles Darwin. His cousin, Francis Galton, was a certified genius, like off-the-charts IQ. But Darwin, who even called himself a pretty ordinary boy, he had something that turned out to be way more powerful, this absolutely obsessive passion. That drive, that persistence is what fueled everything and ultimately changed our world. It's proof that a high IQ isn't the be-all and end-all. Nietzsche just hit the nail on the head with this idea. He saw genius not as some kind of magical gift, but as the mindset of a really good craftsman. It's about loving the process, learning how to build the small parts perfectly, and then trusting that all that careful work will eventually create something incredible. It's all about the work, not magic. So, if mastery is a process, a path you can walk, where's the starting line? Well, according to Greene, the very first and most important step is to look inside yourself. You have to find what he calls your life's task. Think of it like your own personal North Star. It's this deep, primal pull towards something, a curiosity that was probably crystal clear to you as a kid. But then, life happens. The noise from parents, teachers, society, it can drown that voice out. Reconnecting with that force is the absolute foundation for this entire journey. And honestly, there's probably no better example of someone who followed this inner voice than Leonardo da Vinci. His entire life was basically a masterclass in listening to his unique callings, and it all kicked off with a simple, powerful obsession when he was a kid. Just look at what was pulling him in. This wasn't just, aimless daydreaming. He was deeply fascinated by how life worked. He wasn't just drawing pretty pictures, he was dissecting the world with his eyes, trying to figure out the hidden engineering behind a flower blooming or a bird taking flight. These weren't just hobbies, they were blinking arrows pointing toward his destiny. And this inner voice got so strong that it literally guided huge life decisions. When he was kind of snubbed by the establishment in Florence, he didn't try to change to fit in. Nope. He just packed up and carved out a totally new path for himself in Milan, one where he could mix all his passions: art, science, engineering, anatomy. He just refused to be put in a box because his life's task demanded that he explore everything. Okay, so you've done the hard work of reconnecting with that inner calling. Now what? Well, this is where the gloves come off. This is where the real work starts, on what Greene calls the path of apprenticeship. Greene breaks this super important period into 3 phases. First, you just observe. You're a sponge, just soaking up the rules of the game, learning the landscape. Then comes the grind, skills acquisition. This is all about practice, just endless repetition until the basics are burned into your muscle memory. And only then, after all that, can you move on to the third stage, experimentation. That's where you start to bend the rules a little and find your own voice. And that second stage, well, it takes time. A lot of time. You've probably heard this number before, and there's a reason it's so famous. 10,000 hours isn't just a random number. It represents the sheer volume of focused work it takes to go from thinking about every move to just knowing. It's about literally rewiring your brain, and there are no shortcuts. But after you've walked that long path, after you've put in all those hours, you don't just get better at something. You arrive at a whole new level of thinking. This is the ultimate prize. The power of mastery. I just love this quote from Goethe. It captures it all so perfectly. We all start with a lump of clay, right? But it's on us to learn the skills to shape it into something. Mastery isn't just handed to you. It's a power you have to cultivate, carefully and deliberately, over a lifetime. You are the sculptor. So what does this power actually feel like in practice? Greene describes it so well as a fingertip feel. It's this deep intuition where you don't have to consciously think through every single step anymore. The knowledge is just there. It's in your bones, part of your nervous system. You just know what to do next. The right move, the right word, the right solution.
Now I know, all of this might sound like it's just for historical legends. But Greene's most important point is that this path isn't just some old idea. It's not only available to us today, it's absolutely essential. It's your turn.
But there is a huge obstacle in our way. Our modern culture practically screams at us to be passive. It's so much easier to scroll than to create, to be distracted than to be focused. We can start to think that doing great things or solving hard problems, well, that's for somebody else to worry about. And that attitude, Greene says, is the #1 enemy of mastery. And that is exactly why this whole idea matters so much right now. Pursuing mastery isn't some selfish quest. It's vital. It is the ultimate antidote to our world of constant distraction. It's how you grab the steering wheel of your own life instead of just being a passenger. And maybe most importantly, through that focused action, you literally build a new mind for yourself, the sharp, creative, resilient mind that you deserve. And so we're going to end right where we began, with a question. I want you to think back to your own life, maybe to when you were a kid, to those moments of just pure, unfiltered curiosity. What is that deep inner voice, that primal inclination that's calling out to you? Because finding the answer to that, that's step 1.